Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and this is not a regular show, this is not a regular episode, this is a special occasion. We are counting down the top 50 TV shows of all time. Not our top 50 of all time, the top 50 as voted for by our audience, by you guys. So tons of people sent in their lists, top 20s, top 30s, top 40s, top 50s, and based on the points they received in each placement, it assembled this final results list, for which I am now going to reveal. Cara does not know what the results are. He's here to obviously talk about each thing, but react.
I know nothing. I have not submitted a list. I didn't even make a list because I didn't want to think about it too hard. I am just here to judge and critique our audience and their tastes. Which
is funny, because Matt submitted a list, and Tara submitted a list.
No, honestly, if I hadn't been so tired from work, I probably would have done.
Also, full disclosure, I also submitted a list, but
I mean, I knew I had the option to, yeah. And I didn't have the energy to think that hard about TV shows and ranking.
Yeah, Tim only likes like 2 shows, so he didn't bother. But
yeah, but Tim's Tim.
So yeah, so this is going to be part 1. This will be a 2-parter, because typically these tend to go a little bit long. So this will be numbers 50 through 26. This will be the first half of this top 50 results.
Need whiskey.
You may need, okay, I'll buckle in. Now, obviously, we won't necessarily have a lot to say in some of these, because there'll be the odd one here that neither of us have seen or know much about, and that's okay.
I mean, there could be. I mean, you know, in reality, but for all I know, there might be the vast majority that we've not seen, depending on people's tastes.
So, without further ado, we can get started. I do have some stats for the top 50 that I'll get to at the end once they've been revealed, and you know.
I'll go to sleep during that section. It's fine.
It's not a lot, but I think the few that I've done are quite interesting. But yes, so without further ado, the top 50 TV shows part 1 begins now. So number 50 is voted for by everyone. Well, not everyone, but thanks to everyone who did submit.
I really thought you were about to do the Bane voice then.
Thank you, for you, the people, everyone who submitted a list. Thank you. I can. Here it is, your top 50. Welcome to the show. I'm going to kill Batman. Okay.
I like how the longer you do a sentence, the more you start to sound like Dracula.
That's probably true. Like, I've never been great with voices, alright? I can...
No, I know.
Yeah.
But, like, you tend to start off okay on your Bane, but it's just as the sentence goes on, you kind of lose it and just become a kind of cheap Dracula impression.
My name is Bane. I'm going to bring the pain. Okay.
We can start now.
I'm a system. Alright, number 50. Number 50. And it's interesting to look at the shape of this as we go as well, as to where things fell. And different types of shows and how it kind of... So, number 50. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Criminally low.
Criminally low. I knew you were going to say that. It's a good show. I'm not caught up on it. I mean, it's funny though. There's so many seasons that I'm only maybe like halfway, just under halfway now. I've seen.
You've not seen objectively the best episodes,
which is funny. But I mean, I've seen 7 seasons of it. I liked what I watched. I actually started watching it again. I think I got to season 5 on a rewatch, thinking that I'd keep going, but then I just kind of things get in the way, and I kind of forgot about it. And I'll continue.
Just pick up from there, get going. Season 10 is the best season of the show.
Which is impressive. It's impressive that
it kind of is, actually. Yeah,
the season 10 is the best season. It's the show about 4 awful cartoon, actually 5 awful cartoon characters. I almost forgot about Danny DeVito there for a second, because obviously he wasn't there in the first season. But
for some reason, I just assumed you. I don't know who I assumed you forget about, but I assumed it wasn't Danny DeVito.
Because I thought the 4, I thought the 3 and then D, the 3 and D as
sure.
Cool. But no, that's a delightful comedy. Delightful's not even the word. There's nothing about it's always said it's delightful. It's cynical and nasty and all the best ways.
But it comes from a place of love.
Yes. It's full of satire. It's full of things that it wants to point out. And it has very memorable concept. It's kind of like Seinfeld but on steroids. Because Seinfeld was always kind of about, they're kind of dicks about things. This is like, no, they're full-on cartoon dicks about everything. To an extreme.
They are terrible, terrible people, all of them. If they were real, they would be imprisoned multiple times.
Absolutely. So that is number 50. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Number 49. Maybe a little recency bias on this one. That's all I'm saying. Number 49, just squeaking in there, is The Queen's Gambit.
There might be some recency bias.
We're only halfway through this, admittedly, so we can't judge completely.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the reception of the show was pretty, critically revered when it, as it aired, dropped. It's Netflix. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me that some people had this on their lists. Even it maybe part of it is just they remember it because it's there, but it seems like the quality is there to back it up to at least scrape into 50. But I mean, Above Always Sunny, come on.
Like, you don't have to say Above Always Sunny, come on, for every single entry.
I know. I'm just getting out of the way.
All right.
But I mean, I could, but there are some that do deserve to be above it. But I mean,
the show is very good. From the fourth review is not out yet, but we've watched 4 and recorded 4 reviews, and it's been very good. Looking forward to doing the rest of it. It's very high quality. I mean, there's definitely other things I would have on the top 50 over Queen's Gambit.
I mean, you submit a top 50. There were other things you had over
Yes, but I'm not revealing what my list was because that's a Patreon goal for us to do our own top 50s at some point.
Well, I know. All you've revealed is that this wasn't on it. Yet.
Okay, sure. All right, fine. I will confirm that Queen's Gambit did not appear on my personal top 50. All right, you happy? You happy with that?
I'll take it.
Okay. Number 48. Number 48 is Community. Another comedy. This is the Dan Harmon show.
This does make some sense to me because not that this specifically, just comedies being kind of stacked up at the bottom. Because I think in general, again, I didn't make a list, but when I'm thinking about it, most of the time I would probably stack the dramas above the comedies.
For the most part, I agree. Yeah, I find it very hard to mix them, so I tend to weigh the dramas up higher and then the comedies. So, and I'm not saying that even lots of people did that. It's just kind of funny that it's somehow worked out that maybe that's kind of how the results are shaping up here a little early. I love Community though. I will stand up for Community pretty significantly. Season 4 is not that good. It's the weird season. And it's a bit murkier after the fact when we find out why, with the problems that were going on, behind the scenes and why he had to leave for a bit. Because at the time it was like, the damn studio mistreating the creator, and then later you're like, the creator was being a complete dick. Oh, I feel murky about this now. Although as far as later sort of lessons learned and kind of sympathy and kind of seeking forgiveness and or remorse in all the right ways, it's one of the better examples of it. But Community is a very witty show with wonderfully colourful characters. It mastered the idea of doing gimmick episodes that were based around an idea, whether it was the paintball episode, whether it was the Civil War documentary style episode, whether it was the whatever. And I loved that cast of characters, and I even liked, not everyone loved the final 2 seasons, but I thought it did bounce back well enough. Obviously it lost some cast members here or there, which was a little bit of a pain, but
yeah, I mean, I like Community, but I don't love it as much as a lot of people do. I think its gimmick episodes are fantastic, but I don't care for most of the characters. I think that they kind of feel just. I feel them as characters and like cliches for a lot of part that are just playing the parts for the gimmicks, which is fine when I'm enjoying the gimmick episode. But the other one, a lot of the other episodes kind of fall a little bit flat for me.
No, this is one I fell in love with. This was like, it was around the same times as Parks and Rec, but Parks and Rec was obviously from a different kind of creed. This was probably one of the. I think obviously the only thing since Community, comedy wise, that I've kind of fallen for really. From a network has been Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but even that feels like the next Parks and Rec in some ways. So there's definitely some parallels to make there.
It definitely feels like an evolution along from The Office, Parks and Rec, that line of creators. Which there's obviously similar people in line, which is why.
So no, good stuff. Number 47. It's another comedy, and I'm a little bit hurt this is above Community. Not that I dislike it. I've watched a chunk of it, and it seems it's all right for what it is. And Matt's going to be mad. I want to make a
guess.
Matt's going to be mad at me for saying this, but New Girl is number 47.
I like this more than Community. I haven't watched all of New Girl. I've watched 4 seasons, and then I fell off and need to get back to it. Kind of what you were saying with Always Sunny, but I really like what I've seen.
I mean, I think it was enjoyable enough to have on. It's just fine background noise sitcom to me. I don't love it though. I think a lot of these side characters don't. They're not side characters I get into as much. Schmidt, I think his name is. It's been a while since I watched what I've watched, but he's a bit hard to take at times.
He's not quite over the top, but verging on it. In what I can see why it could be irritating, but I never quite got to that stage. It's just before irritating for me, his character.
But honestly, this New Girl is like a solid 6 out of 10 to me. It's perfectly watchable sitcom TV, but it's not like I would not have it even close to a top list of all time. But hey, taste is a thing,
So we can say New Girl was also not on your top 50.
I'm okay admitting that. Yes, it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
How high did Matt have it and pushing this up the rankings?
That's good. I can't remember, but it's probably a good point to make that Matt probably made the difference from this being not making the list to squeezing on there towards the bottom.
And also, Matt is rewatching it right now, which is probably why it was fresh in his mind. He was like, "Oh, this is going high."
Yes, so it's Matt's fault. I guess what we're saying. So yes, New Girl is number 47. Number 46 is something that I don't think we're going to have much to say about. And that is Golden Girls.
Oh no, I got nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't even think I'd heard of this before, but lots of people had it, and I looked up the wiki to see is it a sitcom? Is it a drama? What is this? It was a sitcom in the 80s, I think it was. Clearly was a thing. I don't know if it ever made much of a mark in the UK because I never heard of it.
I mean, I've been vaguely familiar with it for I don't know, years at this point. I know what it is. I know it exists, but I've never watched any of it.
But hey, part of the fun of this is that maybe discover a few things because
could be a generational thing as well. It's possible.
Oh, all you old people or audience members voting for Golden Girls.
I'm just saying.
Number 45 is ER. This is a super duper networky thing.
Yeah.
I've never watched ER. I kind of just assume it's bad. So
yeah, me too.
and maybe that's because the only clip I've ever seen from it is from one of the later seasons, which I presume it went down in quality as it went on, like a lot of shows do. But there's a scene from season 10 or 11 or something like that where a dog steals a heart out of a cooler, and it's a really goofy scene that was shared on YouTube, back when it aired. It was
I've probably seen it and just not remembered that it's ER.
And that's maybe just always coloured my perception. Other than that, I know George Clooney made his name on ER early days and then obviously left it to go be a movie star. That's
better things to do. He left it to go play Batman, I believe. It was around that time.
No, he was still shooting because I don't know why I remember this, but I remember the making of special for Batman and Robin airing on TV at the time, talking about how he would be running from between sets because he was still shooting ER.
Okay.
So he didn't leave it for Batman.
Pretty close though.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you wanted to hear people? It's here. I have nothing interesting to say except I thought it was bad, but based on just purely on just kind of a feeling.
I didn't even think it was bad. It just looked like bland network TV that I have no interest in.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I suppose I assumed it's better than what's out today, but it's probably responsible for why we have 3 Grey's Anatomy shows, Chicago Med.
You couldn't even try and list all the medical dramas that are on TV right now.
Yeah. But yeah, medical drama 101 ER is your number 45. Number 44. I'm glad this made this. I'd love if it was higher. But number 44 is Fringe.
Okay.
Wonderful science fiction show. with, quite frankly, one of the best finales of TV. I think the finale is exceptional, and the show starts off as kind of an X-Files. I don't want to say knockoff per se, but certainly kind of a new generation's X-Files. But by the time you get to the meat of it, the serialized nature of it in season 2, and you really get to the good stuff, it really becomes its own special thing that is willing to take chances. It has its own brand of humor, its own brand of creativeness, and I guess it's a male probably to say this, but not really, given that if you're trying to sell the show to someone, you kind of have to say, hey, it's kind of a show that largely deals with like a parallel dimension, and like that's kind of like a big part of the structure of the whole show. So it's wonderful.
Weirdly, I've only watched season 1 because I was like, I'll give it a try, and I know it gets good. I know everyone says that. Even before I started watching, it was like season 2 is where it actually really starts, where it becomes what it is, where it introduces a lot of the stuff that it's gonna be. And I know that. But I just got to the end of season 1 and was just like burned out already. And I just didn't have it in me to even start season 2. Even though I had it sitting there and I was like, I know this is where it gets good, but I just didn't have it in me. And I'll have to try it again at some point.
Some of the best music composed for TV as well. I love the music in Fringe. Wonderful stuff. The Bishop father-son theme is exceptional.
Giacchino, right?
No. He did. I think he did like work for the pilot, but he was not the. I believe.
Right, okay.
I want to say Chris Tilton is the composer for the show.
Okay, there's a reason though his name is attached in my head. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he did because he did Lost, so I think he did the pilot because it was J.J. Abrams producing this.
Sure.
So, I actually saw the unaired pilot that had some temp music from Lost in it. So there's a scene in the pilot that I kind of associate. There's a theme from Lost. It's like the walking in the jungle music. It's like dun 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 dun. And there's a scene in the Fringe pilot that I associate that music with just because I saw the version of the pilot that had that, even though I only ever saw it once, and every time I've seen the pilot since, it's always been...
It was more memorable than whatever it ended up being, I guess, unfortunately.
I guess, but only because it's got such a distinct like theme. It's only like a montage where they're working on stuff, but it's a sci-fi show. It deals with weird technology. It deals with sci-fi concepts. And it became a bit of a running thing in the show where when you got like a different type of episode, the opening titles would be in a different color, like the opening title sequence, and it would be exciting because it came to mean. So I mentioned parallel dimensions. There'd be episodes set in a second Earth where they'd be red instead of blue. So it became this exciting thing when an episode would start, and if there were ever a different color that wasn't one of those two colors, you'd go, wait, what are they doing? What is this? Like, what is this episode? And it'd be kind of an exciting thing to realize, or it'd be a good way to build hype. I remember watching the finale of season 3, and friends who were also watching the show but hadn't watched the finale yet, I just sort of looked at them and went, there's new opening titles, and that just meant something. It was like, oh, what is the episode? So but like I say, phenomenal ending. I love the finale of Fringe is special. It's a special thing. So I can't recommend it enough. So that's 44. The number 43, another show, similar time frame, from FX. This is The Americans, which I've heard lots of good things about, and I've actually seen most of season 1, bizarrely, of this show. I'm kind of in the Fringe boat. Your Fringe boat, I mean.
Yes.
With this. And it's not that it was bad. It felt like it was... So if you don't know what the concept of The Americans is that it's actually a family where the husband and wife are actually Soviets who are undercover in middle of Cold War America, and even their kids, their teenage kids, because they've been here for 18 years or whatever at this point, don't know that they're Soviets. Do the kids know? Maybe the kids did know. I can't remember. But it played into things. I don't think the kids. I want to say the kids didn't know, but it's been a while, right? Because I watched most of season 1 probably back when it just aired. It maybe finished, but I wasn't. The
people who got this to number 43 are so mad at you right now.
The people who got it to 43 know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, but it's the whole idea of them doing whatever they're doing, and keeping secret and all the shady spy stuff that's going on.
Yeah, it has a reputation for the great suspense and the spy drama of it. It's one that's just passed me by, but not out of lack of interest, just more time.
What's so funny about it is that I thought it was fairly well done, but I wasn't feeling the spark for it. Like I was expecting to feel the Shield / Breaking Bad spark of this thing where they're doing stuff in secret and yada yada. And I never quite felt the spark, even though technically there was nothing. And, Kerry Russell's the wife, and she's very good, and all these things. This is one that I should give it a proper chance to at some point and work through, because I've heard nothing good. It had 5 seasons, I think, and I think people like the ending. So I mean, I know it's this and another show also from FX. No, it wasn't FX. I think it was co-FX and co-BBC, but Orphan Black's another one where I've seen like season 1 and I've heard really good things about the thing overall, but I never continued for whatever reason at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's got those shows, don't they? Where, especially with the season 1 where you like season 1 well enough, especially if you watch it at the time as it airs. But then by the time season 2 comes, a year later or potentially longer if it's a British show, you're just kind of, it passes you by. You just you don't remember if you liked it well enough to really okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this weekly again, and it happens.
Yeah, so that's the Americans at number 43. So it's kind of in that weird. I've seen season. Well, I think I saw because it was 13 episodes. I think I saw 10 of the 13 or something like that. It was
So the majority.
Obviously, if I ever tried it again, I'd be watching it from the start. I wouldn't try and pick up where I left off. It's been 5 years, so.
Could be a fun challenge.
So that's the Americans at number 43. Number 42, switching gears completely, is Married with Children. Al Bundy and Peggy Bundy. Yeah. You don't like Married with Children?
I mean, I don't dislike it. I didn't think it would be on this list.
I like Married. I watched it because I'd seen a lot of it growing up, just sort of randomly, because it was it was on the Comedy Channel constantly, and I'd see it in whatever order. A number of years ago, I actually sat down because I'd done a lot of other sitcoms from the 80s and 90s out of the 2000s, and one that I hadn't done properly and watched in proper order from start to finish was Married with Children, and I watched it, and it is very good. It's actually kind of I would say it's almost I'd almost, not exactly, but it's almost what Seinfeld had sex with to create It's Always Sunny in a weird way, and all I mean by that is that they're not realistic characters; they're cartoon characters, because I mean, half the jokes in the early seasons are about how the wife spends all the money and stuff that isn't food, so they're all technically starving. If they were actually as starving as they claim to be starving, they'd all be dead. Stuff like that. It's very cartoony, and the way it works with the logic and stuff. But I mean, a lot of it's the strength of the actors, Ed O'Neill and Katie Sagal. Those two are great in that show. And maybe some of the humor's not dated amazingly, but a lot of it is still really funny and holds up. But it's definitely more of a cartoony sitcom than something with realistic characters.
This is one that, like I say, it was on when on the Comedy Channel. So I've seen episodes, probably a reasonable handful, but never in any order. I never did what you did, sat down and give it a proper try.
Don't get me wrong. Would I have this above Community? As an example of a show that I already like. I love. Probably not, but I do like it quite a bit.
It's fine. There's a show that I know is going to be on here. I don't know where, but I know it's on there. And me and you will both vehemently disagree with the placement of it, and it should not be on this list.
Yes.
And I'm like, so yeah. I mean, yeah, Married with Children can be on the list. I'm saving my anger for this inevitable show. There's a few that could probably fit that description that you just said, but okay. All right, there's one in particular that I was thinking of.
And I have Married with Children the stamp of approval. 40s feels like a good place for it. I mean, there's a few things underneath this that I do think should be higher than it. If I'm given choice, Fringe I would definitely put higher than Married with Children, no question. But that's 42. Number 41. Speaking of what you just said, that we're going to disagree, and it absolutely should not be here.
Oh, please! I really hope this is the one I was thinking of as well.
41 is The Mandalorian.
Oh God! Do not make me fight you.
What, you thought I was going to accept Mandalorian being in the top 50 TV shows of all time? You really think it's earned that place already?
Do you know what? I don't know if it has, and I'm willing to accept that. It's had 16 episodes that I like a lot.
I think I will say this right, without any of my dislike of Star Wars and my any bias I may have. I would say objective look at this. This falls under Queen's Gambit of recency bias potential.
That's pretty fair, and I think there are other Star Wars shows that do deserve a spot on this list that probably have been overlooked because people put The Mandalorian. But
I want to reveal something. There was a period in the middle of these lists being submitted where the Clone Wars was sitting right at number 50. And I was cackling because I knew there was no way it was going to survive. I knew that other things were going to be bumped up and it was going to get knocked down. And it was a glorious day when it did.
Do you know what's fine?
It was so good.
I can live with the Clone Wars not being on it. It's Rebels not being on this list that hurts. I know Rebels isn't on this list. And I'm holding all of you responsible. Yeah, all of you. You should have put it on there. And if you haven't seen it, you've all got Disney Plus. Because clearly you have, because you've got Mandalorian on it. Go and watch it.
Oh, dear.
But no, I actually, as much as I do love Mandalorian, I do. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know if it would make my top 50. Because
I
think I would be very aware that, okay, is this recency bias? Am I just putting this here because Star Wars? Or is it legitimately better than all this? Because it's had about, 8 hours, 9 hours worth of footage, right? Something like that.
Short episodes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they vary, but give or take, maybe 9 or 10 hours. It's not that much. And in the same way that we were kind of saying about Queen's Gambit, like, recency, it's there. I mean, I don't know if this...
I will say the difference between Queen's Gambit is, though, because it's a limited series, it is completely finished, and if you have watched the whole thing, well, I do think there can be recency bias there. I also think, like, if you compare it to the same director's other show, Godless, which has had a couple of years since, I think anyone who put Godless on their list, I think they're not doing that out of recency bias. I think that's just, no, Godless left an impression on them, and it was a good, complete thing.
No, that is fair. That's kind of what I was going to say. I think, honestly, it would be very hard for me to put shows that are currently running, even like, full-length seasons, that have less than 2 or 3 seasons. I need at least like a good amount of, if we're talking 13-episode seasons of like full, hour-ish long episodes, I need at least 2 or 3 seasons before I could even start considering it for this list. Yeah. If it's still running. If it's finished, that's different.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. I think there wasn't a lot of ongoing series that I considered, and the ones that I did were deep into their runs. They weren't, just after 1 or 2 seasons.
Did they, like, both happen to have maybe 5 seasons?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not responding to that. You can't make me. So, yeah, Mandalorian's at number 41. Shame on you all. Number 40.
Great music, though.
Number 40. We're back to a comedy here. We're at Cheers, which was so popular when it aired, and I didn't know this, but apparently 40,000 people watched the finale in the Toronto. What's the dome in Toronto? The Sky Dome?
Maybe. I don't know the name of it. I know the building you're on about.
Yeah, it's the stadium in Toronto.
Yeah.
But 40,000 people in Canada, no less. So it wasn't even just in America, it was big. In Canada, 40,000 people went, and it turns out they also did that for the finale of Star Trek The Next Generation, which was a cool thing to learn too. But
it's kind of cool.
Honestly, the thought of that is so appealing to me, if only because I'd love to hear 40,000 Cheers fans singing the theme as it plays at the start. That's the appeal for me.
Nah, I guess I don't have the same attachment to it that some people do. But I'm not surprised at all that it's on this list.
I like Cheers a lot. Cheers is one. I mostly discovered Frasier first, right? When I was younger, and like I say,
in the UK did.
Yeah, when I was going through the show, these sitcoms, and I was saying, I went through a lot of these ones. I went through Frasier, I went through Third Rock, ones that I've seen a lot of episodes from, but had never sat down and watched them in order, and that was appealing to me because I like watching things in order. I like seeing the actual progression of the characters and the arcs and so on. And naturally, when I considered doing Frasier, I thought, well, that's a spin-off. I should go back and start with Cheers and do the whole, all 22 seasons effectively of this universe. And Cheers was very enjoyable. And yeah, I like a lot of comedies. The odd things not aged amazingly because it started in 1982. Some things have dated a bit, but yeah. Very colourful characters, very memorable episodes, and ultimately it does have a lot of good feeling about it. The song, it's nice to go to a place where everyone knows your name. It's kind of the feeling that the show kind of has for people, is that,
I mean, even just the name.
Yeah.
Even taking the show out of the equation, you say Cheers, it has good connotations with it. So I mean, just as soon as you say it, you're like, okay, roughly what to expect.
And what's funny about Cheers is that obviously Sam and Diane's like Will They Won't They for the first 5 years was a big part of the show. And it was very entertaining to watch because both actors were really good at it. is that, a lot of people might be concerned that once she leaves to go be a movie star, which I don't think ever really panned out that well, once that happens, does the show buckle? And I what's funny is that I think them being forced to change, and it's not so much that having a replacement character, because the character kind of became, the Rebecca who became the new character was very different, and that was fine. But I think the show being forced to not rely on that relationship anymore, in the long run, actually benefited it, because it stopped that from ever getting too stale. I think 5 seasons was just a nice amount of time that run its course, and then it was able to have like a second phase where it just became more of an ensemble from that point. There
are definitely lots of shows that have a romance that overruns its welcome. Yeah. There are so many examples of that.
So, I think that actually bizarrely made it help. But I think when you go back and rewatch it now, there's nothing that I'd considered the weak season. And Frasier, that's kind of true for Frasier as well. Frasier has one, I think, weak season, and it was kind of a circumstantial thing because the actress who played Daphne was pregnant, so they had to write like a really bad like plot line where she got fat, and it was just bad. Like that season just sucks.
That's how they wanted to handle that.
Yeah, that season sucks. The rest of Frasier I think holds up. I think that season sucks, but. Yeah, so Cheers is, wonderful cast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like I say, I like what I've seen. This is another one of those sitcoms where I've seen plenty of episodes. It's always enjoyable. I've never sat down and watched the whole thing like you have, but enough that I have a reasonable opinion on it. But I absolutely get why people love it and why it's on this list. Just not there for me. Maybe one day I'll sit down and watch it, and it'll click in the same way.
Yeah. So that is Cheers at number 40. Number 39. One that I don't think we're going to have much to say about. I mean, obviously we've both heard of this. It's impossible not to have heard of this show, but I doubt either one of us has seen I Love Lucy.
No.
Yeah. Culturally, obviously, has an impact, but it's obviously one of the oldest things that are going to be on this list, and it was not something that really aired repeats in the UK growing up, so I never caught any of it. I don't think it has the cultural impact in the UK that it obviously does in the US, where it's still a constant show that's on like one of the cable channels.
It was something that I didn't hear of until probably I was in my teens.
Yeah. I probably heard it referenced on another show at some point growing up, and then But
context for what it was like I say, there wasn't like a character mentions it in a show, I'll go and watch it. There was none of that. It was just I discovered it through the internet, really. But
it obviously means a lot to a lot of people, and they got it to the 30s, so that's neat. Yeah. It's actually kind of funny looking at some of the things that are purely just a US audience that would be voting, and just purely a UK audience that are voting, and seeing where things land. And then in some cases where even one of the other audiences will say the other one instead. Like they'll go for another option over.
Oh, really?
There's a couple of shows specifically where there's a UK and a US version of something, where sometimes it would be like, no, I'm specifying the other one instead of this one.
That's interesting.
Or vice versa. So no, but neat. So 39 is I Love Lucy. I can't really say much on it, but obviously it's got a cultural impact and big deal to a lot of people. Number 38 is an interesting one from our perspective, and that is 6 Feet Under, because we are currently working through it for Patreon. The 11th episode is just about to go up for patrons, or it just went up, depending on when that goes up this week.
You should know
before or after this. It's sitting there. I just need to like package it and put it up. We've recorded it. It's there. It's ready to go.
The laziness of this man.
But yeah, so 6 Feet Under, the show about a family who run a funeral home. The show starts with the death of the father, who actually runs it, and then it becomes the brother's responsibility. But they also have the sister, the mother, and some other characters from their relationships that are introduced. It's a drama. Yeah. So just from cultural, like what I've heard, I don't know what happens, but I have heard from people who love this show that much what I said about Fringe is that it has one of the best like payoffs and like finales of all time.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I mean, we're enjoying the show.
Oh yeah,
well enough. Like, I don't think right now. Again, we haven't even finished the first season. Right now, I doubt either of us would have this on our list. But I'm enjoying it enough, and there's potential that maybe by the time we finish it, maybe it would be on my list. But it's clearly got the quality behind it that it has that potential. So again, it's not surprising at all that this is making a half decent showing on this.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's a really good drama. I don't know if I quite get the best of all time spark, because that always enters into the conversations of one of the best shows of all time. I'm not really feeling that yet, but we're only in season 1, so...
Right, and I think it's the black humor of it that's kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know to expect going in, because no one really talks about that as much. At least not when they're talking about, oh, it's such a good show.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mention that, and that's the bit that would have probably made me watch it years ago.
Relax, Dave. They're just nipples. Honestly, because the creator went on to do True Blood, and I hate True Blood, it's probably coloured my expectations for 6 Feet Under.
True Blood has one of the best opening songs, though, of all of TV. It's up there.
Yeah, but but the show's garbage.
I'm trying to see what I can defend.
There's some
Not much,
there's some
admittedly.
attractive people on it who take their clothes off. I mean, that's a bit...
That's true. I will say I liked the first season well enough. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But not enough to come back for... Actually, did I come back for the second season? I think I tried the second season like years later and didn't finish it. I was like, nah, do you know what? I was right to just let this rest.
Yes, it's trash. It's just straight up trash. And if True Blood does show up in somewhere in this list, I'll be criticising you all. Immensely. Alright, so 38 was 6 Feet Under. Is that the first HBO show we've had? I think it might be.
I think so.
Yeah.
Probably not the last, though.
I'll be doing some one of the stats I'll have at the end is what networks scored the best, out of the bunch. But so yeah, 38 is 6 Feet Under. 37. Oh, we didn't have to wait long for HBO entry number 2. But very different though. 37 is Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Larry David show, which I will. I mean, I still haven't watched the last season and a half, but I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's great. Larry David's fantastic.
I should love it. I should when you describe the kind of comedy, but it doesn't work for me for whatever reason.
That's fair. So sometimes
I think it's an acquired taste.
It probably is a little bit. I remember not knowing if I was going to like it when I first started watching it. When I tried it way back, I think when I started watching it, maybe it had been 4 or 5 seasons, and I bought a DVD box set that had the first 5 seasons on a whim, because I need something to binge through, and that was back before streaming services and whatnot. You bought DVD box sets. That's what you did, and that's how long the show's been going. By the way, is it?
Yeah, I know. And, do you know what? I do love streaming services lowering the barrier of entry for me to just try random shit. I don't. I just watch the thick of it for the millionth time, like I did the other day. Just started that again. No reason. Just thought, screw it. I'll watch that instead of any of the things I could watch.
I like how you brought that up there because it's the only way it's going to get mentioned on this list.
I know. It's that's sad to me because, again, I didn't make my list yet, but that would be a top 10, I'm sure. It would be up there. I love that show.
Yeah. So. No, but Curb is delightful, and I there's something so... He's got a couple of things that he does. He's got, I don't want to say catchphrases, but there's a couple of things he does that always feel like great payoff in the moment, because there's a moment you realise that he's going to say one of these things or whatever, because he's in an awkward moment. It's that awkward humour mixed with a lot of great cynical shit that's great.
And it's the cynical stuff that I should love, because that's my kind of comedy. But maybe I just need to give it more episodes to grow on me.
Yeah, and there's something as well. Sometimes the ending of the episodes will be fantastic. The way that theme tune will kick in as he's realizing something, or he's caught in a situation, and that's where we're ending in the. It's
kind of something that Always Sunny does a lot with the cut to credits. Harsh with the title screen. What the episode title is going to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So. There you go. That's number 37. Number 36, sticking with a comedy here, is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. A lot of love for this one. This is one that grew on me as the seasons went on, because I always thought it was enjoyable enough, and there was characters that I really liked on it. But this is a show that, as it got deeper into its run, started to get more heartfelt, started to tackle more serious topics, and really felt like it was trying to be more than what it started out as, which was just kind of a dumb sitcom, essentially. And the fact that the current season that they're working on, they scrapped all their scripts after, political and social events last year, saying, no, we want to say something about this, so we're going to just scrap everything and try and address, the police system in the country by whatever we're going to do. And that, if you'd said that they were going to do that to me back after I watched like season 1, I'd be like, they're taking themselves that seriously. But honestly, it's all for the better, because the show has only gotten better, I think, as it's went on, and it's had like 6-7 seasons now, so plenty to judge it on. I'm
a bit behind. I think I've watched the first 4 seasons, I want to say, which is still a reasonable amount to have a solid opinion on, and I do absolutely love it. And it's one of those where I keep seeing, it's there on Netflix, I should probably catch up, and then I'm just like, or do I just leave it until it's finished and have a great show that I know is going to be great waiting for me, and just in its entirety?
I'm going to spoil a small joke from one of the future Halloween episodes just to get you jazzed up for it, right? So one of the things that one of them do to sort of cause a distraction during the Halloween heist, which is the yearly tradition, is that they get a bunch of people to come in dressed as handmaids from Handmaid's Tale, and they're all walking around in a row, right? And then Hitchcock says one of the phrases from the show. He's like, "Oh, blessed be thy morning, blessed fruit," or something. Whatever one of the things that they say in Handmaid's Tale. And I think it's Terry Crews who turns and says, "You watch Handmaid's Tale?" And he goes, "No, that's my pickup line." And that joke broke me. It broke me.
Yeah, I get it. No, it's a wonderful show, and I think worth knowing, the representation. You talk about the social issues it tackles, but the representation has been there since the start. Oh, it always has been. From my understanding, has just added and added as it's gone on.
Yeah, there was a diverse cast to begin with, but they've actually lent into it and started to use that to tell stories about who they are and stuff.
I think Captain Holt has been like probably my favorite gay character on TV, because he has, obviously they have episodes that are about his identity. Of course they do. They do that with all the characters, but it's not the only thing it's there. It's in so many other episodes he's just there and it's hilarious. It's still part of him, but it's not the only thing that's him.
Holt's my favorite character on the show. Holt is wonderful in so many ways, and he's probably the one who did have the stories about the more social sides of his character early on, because there was a lot of references to being a gay black detective in the 70s and how difficult that was and all the adversity he's faced. But he's taken it more seriously as it went on in a way that doesn't detract from the comedy. But he's so funny.
His deadpan humor and just straight dialogue is some of the best.
To spoil one more, obviously everyone remembers the hot damn when he gets the bet right at the start of one of the episodes. But to spoil just one line of dialogue from season 1, and I think this was the moment where I realized that I really liked the show before it got great for other reasons later. There's an episode in season 1 where him, and I think it's Rosa and him, who have devised a plan to make everyone work better just based on the foot traffic of where everyone's desk is situated. So they start messing around by moving desks around to see, okay, does this make productivity go up? Does it, and sort of affect it? And one of the things that they're trying to avoid is that Charles always takes stuff from the lost and found once it's been there for so long and wears it. And there's a moment where he walks out and he's got like this razzle dazzle like cowboy shirt on, like a hat on. And the camera cuts to Holt, and he completely, and I can't say it deadpan, but completely deadpan, he says, "Jesus Christ, Charles looks like a lesbian." And he's so deadpan, and the horror of the way he says it, that I'm that was the moment where I realized, okay, this show has something, because that broke me.
He is one of my favorite characters on the show, just because, again, like I say, it is that delivery that is so unlike almost any other character on any TV show. No one else has that delivery in any comedy sitcom I've ever seen. A comedy sitcom. That was a stupid way of phrasing that. I was going to say comedy show and changed my mind halfway through. But no one else has that level of deadpan delivery consistently. You might get the odd joke or scene, but that is his character, and I love it.
Yeah, and they've had shows where someone arrests Terry, because he's black, and like that, what comes from that. They had an episode where Rosa came out to her parents. There was an episode where Rosa happens to be near a public shooting, and like everyone's reaction to like worrying about her, and like it handles all these things, and it does it in a way that treats it seriously. It feels like it's making a poignant statement or a poignant question, but never loses the comedy around it, and the comedy also never detracts from the serious thing that it's talking about. So it's really well done. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a show that's more than the sum of its parts, and
it's a balance in it, and it says a lot that, again, I've seen probably about half of what exists right now, give or take, and I'm surprised this isn't higher. If anything, like that's how much I think has a reputation for being that good.
So number 35, another comedy, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, and that's Frasier. Not too much higher than Cheers, but notably a little bit higher. Frasier's just a little bit up there. And I think that tracks for me. I think I would say Frasier. Even though I said Cheers doesn't have a bad season and Frasier does, I do think Frasier as a whole
higher highs.
It's just a little bit higher highs. I think Niles is such a great counterpart to Frasier. The idea that because Frasier was always the hoity-toity one in Cheers, right? And the idea that there's a worse one, that there's like someone who's like Frasier but worse. And it became like a big trope. It was in Cheers as well with Norm's wife, the idea of the wife who's unseen, right? And that trope, which I know some people have like sort of analysed that it's been overdone, and like maybe like some of the problematic elements of having the unseen wife and the sort of the things you could read from that. But it is so funny with Maris. Like, it is genuinely hilarious because basically what they describe is someone who can't exist. Like the way it's in the same way I talk about the cartoony element. Not that Frasier's a cartoony sitcom like Married with Children, but in the same way, the human being they describe and all the jokes they make about who she is and what
real.
Or what her body's like or how she acts, or it's impossible. But that's why they can never show her. They can never like show someone because this human being can't possibly exist.
Yeah, no casting could live up to the expectation.
Yeah. So
I do wonder as well because from my perception, Frasier was always bigger in the UK than Cheers.
I think that's probably true.
So I wonder if part of this being higher isn't necessarily that it's better, although as much as you would agree with that, it's maybe more just some of our UK audience adding to that weighting a little bit, perhaps.
Maybe. I've heard Americans say they think it's a little bit better. Like, Cheers is great, and then Frasier's just a little bit greater. Because that's how I'd phrase it. I think Cheers is great, and then I think Frasier's just somehow just tapped into something a little bit special beyond that.
That's fair, yeah.
Which is very different. And all the new characters are great. I mean, I mentioned Niles, but Martin and Roz and Daphne, they're all great. And I think for the most part, Daphne and Niles' Will They Won't They was amusing. And had its ups and downs, and there's some funny parts to it. Obviously, he's the way he keeps it to himself for years, even after the wife is gone, is very unhealthy, and you could read into the psychology of it. But from a comedy perspective, and then I think the moment where she finds out that he's in love with her is still very memorable to me, even to this day. And not just from when I watched it all the way through. I remember that from just seeing it on TV. Like when it was repeating, it was a big deal that there's a moment, I think it's like towards the end of season 7, where she finds out.
Is it that late?
Yeah, it's a good half minute of the show.
Because again, this is like one of those I've seen a reasonable amount of episodes, but never in order. So I don't, have a good benchmark for the placement of things. I've just seen whatever episode happened to be on at the time, and I have seen this one. Yeah.
Frasier's doped up because he's got back pains, and Daphne's giving him a massage because that's that's what she does. She's a physical therapist, and he just sort of blurts it out, and he doesn't know it. He doesn't remember this later, and that guilt is kind of something that is also played for comedy later on. Obviously the dog as well, Eddie.
Obviously, I
believe he was the same dog the whole show. I think so. At the very least, when the dog passed away in real life. Sometime
they
later,
made a point.
It definitely seemed like it was the same dog because they said, "Oh, this is the dog that was Eddie and Frasier." So it definitely implies it was all one dog.
It's not like ridiculously long that it couldn't have been.
11 seasons. I mean, that's a healthy part of a dog's life.
Very, very common lifespan for a dog to fit within that comfortably.
So no. Also, something I never knew about. I just learned this recently, but apparently they literally just rebuilt the sets over the Cheers sets, so it was literally the same. So I have to assume that the apartment set, which is the main set in Frasier, was literally just the bar room from Cheers. Like it's the same place.
I mean, that's one way of doing it, I guess.
they literally rebuilt the sets over it.
I mean, you've got the space to shoot on. You might as well at that point.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's just funny that for 22 years this was this, and it's always so funny. Actually, one of the funny things about going back and watching Cheers is that Frasier doesn't even show up until like maybe late season 2, but he's not like a regular character, I think, until season 3. And he shows up as like a new boyfriend for Diane, But obviously the writers realised they were onto something because they kept him around. And then obviously eventually he was there. He had a wife, and that wife is a recurring guest star in Frasier and
I think
so on.
you've just hit on something there as to why I love TV in general so much, as opposed to other. I'm specifically talking about movies here. Again, obviously I love a lot of movies, but in general I have a preference for TV because of that flexibility that they have, where things will introduce that randomly, and that they'll be like, oh, that was quite good. They'll come back to it. Maybe it was because of audience reception, or the writers realize they had something, and it'll develop over years in a way that movies just can't do in the same way, because of the way they're structured. And
I love that we're spending a lot of time on some of these comedies that we have seen, because I think we never get to talk about those that much because we don't review sitcoms, because it's hard to review a sitcom week to week because there's not much point. But
yeah, as much as you can kind of talk about them over the course of the show, maybe even the season, like what was the arc of the characters this season?
Yeah.
Most of the time, episode by episode, this was very funny. This character learned this thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, Frasier, number 35. Well placed. Number 34, this is one with a lot of cred that I have to admit, this is another one where I've seen a season, but I chose to stop watch. This wasn't something that I drifted from. I made a choice because I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. I have no intention of ever going back. And number 34, that is Mad Men.
Yeah, I get it. I get both sides of this, because I've seen a handful of episodes. I think I've seen the first 5 or 6. I tapped out.
Yeah.
But I can see the objective quality, and like, okay, I see why people would enjoy this and why people do love it.
And it's got a good cast,
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, it's got a good cast plus January Jones.
That's very harsh. She's not that bad.
Oh, come on. She's the worst part of X-Men First Class. She's the worst part of a lot of things.
I mean, I think it's unfair to say she's the worst part of X-Men First Class, because that is such a high bar for everything else. I don't think she's that... I mean, it's probably true, but it's not like she's terrible. I don't think she's that bad. I think she's fine. She just happens to be in a lot of projects with things that are a lot better than she is. So she stands out.
Okay.
But like, I see both sides. I get why people like this. I can see the quality. Yeah. Just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. I think for one of the first two, I did like what the premise of the show was. I just stopped, and I'm like, oh, I'm too far in there to start doing that again.
This would be way too long if you started the premise for everything.
So it's set in the 60s. He's an ad man. He makes up ads, but he cheats on his wife, and he has a lot of affairs. Yes, everyone's
that's pretty much the whole show, right?
Everyone's drinking a lot, and yes, there you go.
Drinking.
Yes, he'd fit in nicely. Number 33 is one that we have not seen, but we will. That is Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Is number 33. Very highly regarded amongst Trek fans as Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is some of our own, but maybe there's a wider appeal to some of the ones that more people have seen, perhaps, that maybe will show up later. I don't know. But amongst a lot of the hardcore Trek fans, this is often considered the best.
I think, given our tastes in serialized TV, and then what we like about Trek, and the fact that I know this has been accused, with good reason, as ripping off Babylon 5, at least in general premise. Obviously, once it gets going and it does its own things with its own whatever, I suspect we will be into this. I suspect Deep Space Nine will play to our tastes.
It is the one I'm most looking for, as much as we're enjoying what we're doing with Next Gen, and there are some great episodes, and I feel like that's probably going to show up later on this list.
I mean, I have heard that it takes a little bit to get going, so it's not like an instant greatness. It's it's a slow build.
So it's a Trek show.
But more serialized than the other ones so far.
No, it's the one I'm most looking forward to getting to, by quite a margin.
So, so Star Trek Deep Space Nine, number 33. Number 32, Batman the Animated Series.
I get it. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that enough people remembered to put it as high as they did to get it to this stage of the list.
Yeah,
because I think it's easy to overlook.
I think I'm pleasantly surprised that it kind of made this much of an impact. It's very special. It's important to, I think, a lot of us kind of in our general age group who grew up falling in love with Batman or DC comics, that Batman the Animated Series is kind of what the gateway was for a lot of us. And I did watch the movies at the time, and I did watch the Superman movies. I think Superman movies were equally my gateway. But when I look back, and I kind of hate those Batman movies now. Batman the Animated Series and the original Superman movies, and by original I kind of mean the first two. Although that's it. I have a soft spot for three, but it's kind of a guilty soft spot, not like
it should be one. Guilty.
But Batman the Animated Series is the thing that I'm like, no, it makes sense that I fell in love with this, and it's kind of a blueprint for a big part of what I love about pop culture for later in life is Batman.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this show specifically quite a bit on our comics show.
Yeah,
because obviously we do a show about DC Comics. If you're just here for the TV stuff.
And there's so many characters who either were created in the show that then were put into the comics, or the versions that we kind of have come to accept as comic book standard were kind of influenced heavily by what they did. Mr. Freeze being kind of a big one in that realm.
Bullock as well, I think.
Bullock, yeah.
Because technically existed before, but the Bullock we all think of today is from that show.
And of course, in terms of creation, Harley Quinn's the big one that you always bring up, as she was created for the show. Yeah. And then, of course, she's now like this huge character who sells tons of merchandise and whatever.
Right.
So, no, it's special, and it's
I'm glad this got the representation that it deserves, and this is probably a reasonable spot for it. Like, it's a great show, but there are definitely things that probably deserve it more as a show in their own right to be higher. Mm-hmm. But this definitely deserves a spot around here for one, it is very good, and two, its impact on on us as an audience.
And wonderful visuals as well. I mean, the simplest answer to it is they painted onto a black canvas, and that's why it's got this great grungy gothic look to it. But it looks wonderful and has very distinct and fits Batman well.
Very unique, because even after this, and obviously there are things that ripped it off to no end, but I don't know how many did the trick of painting on black instead of on white. Mm-hmm. It still to this day is fairly unique because of that.
Yeah. So that's Batman the Animated Series at number 32. Number 31. Back to a comedy here is Third Rock from the Sun. Another one that I'll stick up for. Now, I don't know if the order of all the comedies at this point. Like, do I agree with the order? I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and sort of like think about them all.
Always Sunny was at the bottom, so definitely I don't agree.
But Third Rock from the Sun is very special. It's another one where comedies rely so much not on the writing, not just on the writing, but on the cast. And John Lithgow is obviously the centerpiece of this whole thing, and he is insanely wonderful. If you don't know what the premise of this is 4 aliens assume the roles of human beings on Earth, led by John Lithgow. So a lot of the humor comes from them not understanding human traditions or concepts, and it is used occasionally to point out some issues and like them sort of not understanding certain things because humans are idiots.
It's the sort of thing where if they dared to remake it now, they would highlight these social issues a lot more, I imagine, in the comedy today.
But it is a hilarious show. And you got young Joseph Gordon-Levitt's really great there. Great running gags with the idea that Sally, the female alien, is attracted to Don, the policeman, who's played by Wayne Knight, but only when he's in his police uniform. And that becomes this running gag. There's this intensity whenever he'll walk in the room behind her and she'll just sort of freeze and go, Don? Like, she'll just know he's there. And it's these kind of running things. Exceptionally funny and delightful, and it's a tour de force. It's 6 seasons of getting to watch John Lithgow go full John Lithgow, and for that it deserves a place on this list.
It is the thing that let him be unleashed, and to this day has never matched, I don't think, in the ferocity of the performance. But I think he's had, I don't want to say better performances, but he's obviously had more dramatic performances since, because he's very capable. He's a fantastic actor.
He's a good genuine actor, but here you have these characters who are essentially children who are learning what being on Earth is like, but they have the egos, and like he thinks he's like he's the high commander, as he reminds them constantly, and how important he is. So and how he deals with feelings of romance and love, and how he's confused by it.
I think it is pretty telling that when you think of that show, you do think of Lithgow before anything else.
Yeah. Yes. So No, wonderful show. But that's not to downplay that the rest of the cast are also very good in their roles.
No, he's just particularly standout.
Yeah. So, yeah, you go. That's Third Rock from the Sun at number 31. Number 30 is a science fiction show. It is the 2004 version of Battlestar Galactica, or 2003 if you're starting from the miniseries, I suppose. But the point being, it's the 2000s version of Battlestar Galactica,
AKA the good one.
I mean, some people have a lot of nostalgia for the fun campiness.
Nostalgia does not equal good
of the original, but I am a fan of this version. I've never seen the original. Of this more militaristic sci-fi of human beings that have been chased away from their planets by Cylons, which is a robot race that rebelled against them because they were slaves. So it's got a lot of big ideas, a lot of the big sci-fi concepts of, you know, our machines, can they gain souls, humanity, a lot of philosophical stuff thrown in there, a lot of cool space battles and stuff like that, very memorable characters. So it's really good. There's 4 seasons overall, and it does, you know, some people debate kind of the, you know, where it goes towards the end. Some people don't like kind of stuff. I like a lot of the stuff towards the end, but I think it's probably fair to say that seasons 1 and 2 are the best the show is. Very, very good. So I don't otherwise say much more than that, because it's a show with a lot of twists and turns and things. Even the end of the miniseries, which I kind of just count as like the first like 3-hour episode. One of the things that I really like is that on the Blu-rays and stuff, I don't know what it's like on the streaming services. Like I'm sure Peacock will end up with this because it's a Universal one thing. But the final like 2 episodes were a 2-parter. It was like a part 1 and a part 2. With part 2 being a little bit longer than a regular episode. On the Blu-ray, there's an edit where it's all of them put together, but extended as well with more stuff into essentially a 3-hour movie. So you can actually, it literally starts and ends with a 3-hour movie, essentially.
That's quite cool.
Which is a neat little bookend thing. So, but no.
And you know, this has, you know, again, it's not surprising that it's this high because it has such a, you know, a pretty high regard in pop culture. It's interesting to see that they're daring to try and remake it again and see where they go with that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite up a remake or it's more of a spiritual successor.
They've been pretty vague, haven't they?
Yeah, we don't know for sure, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's number 30, just 30. So number 29. Everyone get serious for a second here. Number 29 is Angel. What you may know is a spin-off of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You know the worst part of this is?
Yes.
Means I've still got to sit through that shit later.
I mean,
although
I'm not giving away anything.
I might say this is the better show.
Some people do. Some people do think Angel's the better show. For a number of reasons. It's kind of a little bit more grown up than Buffy is, and I kind of love it. This is, you know, I mean, I think this probably was the thing that introduced me to the idea of what a spin-off is, what a spin-off could be.
Sure.
And, you know, you take a character, you give them their own show, or in this case, you get a couple of characters, because Cordelia obviously went as well, but and you go to the city and you have a slightly more grown-up version of the same idea. And it even inspired things. I mean, you love Doctor Who and Torchwood. Like, I mean, Russell T Davies outright said that Angel was kind of the inspiration in a lot of ways for.
I know. Yeah,
for that. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I mean, David Boreanaz, I don't think is like an amazing actor, but he's really good as Angel.
No, that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah,
it's conveniently a relatively emotionally limited role for the most part.
Sure.
Again, with exceptions, but for the most part, it plays. He's doing the brooding thing, and that's obviously a kind of a running gag for a lot of it. But it plays into him as an actor that, you know, he tends to be okay at that stuff.
Yeah, but whenever they do actually make him do something else, where he's, you know, he's turned evil, or it was a comedy episode where he swapped bodies with someone, like he tends to handle that stuff well enough. Like it tends to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, but you have a great cast of characters where it started off using mostly Buffy characters, but it's sort of slowly kind of expanded and added more, and you got some great new characters out. You know, people love Fred. Gunn's a great character. Mm-hmm. Wesley was a Buffy character too, although he really becomes what people like about Wesley and
he was in
an Angel.
1 episode, maybe 2 in Buffy. I'm forgetting.
He's in like half a season, but whatever.
Is he in that much?
Yeah, he shows up as he's appointed as Faith's Watcher in season 3.
Yeah. I remember that. I just don't remember him being there that much.
I mean, the actual episode count, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure he's not in every one once he shows up, but he's a consistent presence for the back half of that season.
Fair enough. I only remember him in a couple of episodes, but I'm sure he's. I guess he's there.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely feels like he's a constant part. I don't know if he's literally in every episode once he shows up, but he's you know,
he's in the background prodding away. But yeah, he doesn't have much character really beyond the.
He's comic relief.
The face level gimmick at that point.
He's comic relief there, and he's still really funny in Angel, especially early on. But he does grow into being his own character. You know, and Angel took some weirder risks. It did some different things. That is very good. It's kind of a shame in the sense because Angel, unlike Buffy, didn't reach a natural endpoint. They kind of refreshed the show in season 5. With the idea being that it could probably go a few more years with this new status quo and a new setup, and they had to kind of like scramble to end it a little bit.
And it's frustrating because that is one like the concept of what they were setting up was very exciting, and I do wish we could have seen more of that. Obviously,
but it's a very satisfying show still, though, and because it's part of this larger world, and we're kind of far too gone now to ever really expect beyond like and I suppose we're kind of technically getting that in a weird way, but. Outside of like a new generation in the world, we're never going to get like the third show now. We're never going to get that because there was a lot of talk for years of a Faith spin-off or a Spike spin-off or whatever. We're never going to get that now properly because time's moved on. Everyone's 25 years older. We can't do it now.
Yeah, I mean, you might obviously as I say we have a new show coming with the new generation. You might have the odd actor pop up with a little bit of deep fake helping.
I don't even think that. I could see them, it could just be that much later. I mean, unless you're just the vampires you're talking about.
That's the ones I'm on about.
Yeah, I'm thinking more, you can have, like, Xander show up and be, like, kind of almost a new Giles to someone, just because of his age.
You absolutely could. Don't think they would with him due to,
due to his life.
Actor issues.
But
with the vampires as well, like, a short appearance with a little deep fake help. Isn't out of the realms of possibility. It wouldn't be the first TV show to do it anymore.
Yes, but I mean, I think these people have more class than.
No, don't say it.
Than that Star Wars trash. So I'm saying,
be more respectful, you bastard.
No, Angel's wonderful, and Whedon shows of they have good plots, but ultimately the characters are so good and so wonderful to be around that you're rooting for, and you want them to be a family, and you want all these things that.
It is mostly the dialogue bouncing off the characters that make those shows. I think for me,
that's a lot of what it is. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of really good depth to those shows and the themes and stuff and everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
But that is a big part of it for sure. Angels.
That's where the face value enjoyment, minute to minute comes is in that stuff.
But yes, and even in short periods of time, create very memorable characters. Doyle's a wonderful, wonderful character. So our rats are low. It says rats. All right, number 28, The West Wing.
Okay, this again isn't surprising. I've seen just over a season of this.
Oh, I haven't seen any of this. I mean, obviously, I'm familiar with Sorkin's work from other things, so I suspect that I'd probably actually get into this because I like.
It's very Sorkin, yeah.
But it's always funny because I was looking up the start years for all these shows in the list, and I was surprised that this was as late as it was. I thought it was a bit earlier. It kind of started around when I thought it ended, which is weird.
What year was it?
It's like 2000. It was around 1998 2001-ish that it starts. I thought it ended around that time, but it actually starts around that time.
To be fair, I probably would have said the same. I would have said mid-90s.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was mostly in the 2000s.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
So I was surprised by that, but yeah.
Yeah, what I've seen, I love. I got really busy with, I think it was work, whatever, at the time, and I fell off it, and now I'm like, I need to go back and watch it all. Obviously, there's the last couple of seasons without Sorkin that have a reputation for not being as good, and that's probably the only thing that surprises me about its placement here on the list is that it's as high as it is, including those seasons.
Yeah, I think Sorkin combined with just Martin Sheen being the main character on a show is kind of intriguing in terms of premise.
I mean, I do really like what I've seen. Is right up my. I mean, I love Sorkin's dialogue because that's what Sorkin is. He is the dialogue master.
Walking talks, yes.
Yeah,
I
love it.
I watched Trial of Chicago 7 last night, and I was like, counting the seconds down to the first walk and talk. I was like, okay, when's the first walk and talk?
About 12 seconds, maybe. It's not long.
To be fair, there's not a lot of walking and talking that because it's mostly in the courtroom, so they're all sitting down. So there's not a lot of walking and talking when you're sitting down.
No, but there is walking to the courtroom, I'm sure, at a few points.
There is. That's early on, but there's not a lot of walking. I mean, obviously, and walking around in the shot doesn't count. When we talk about walking and talking, we're talking about tracking with the actors as they're walking through a hallway or something like that.
It's instead of just cutting from one location to the next, which is what most things do, it's just following them walking through the corridor, room to room, and the dialogue there is compelling enough that it doesn't matter that they're just walking to the next room. And again, that's obviously what it's famous for, and it's for a reason. It's bloody good. I definitely want to watch at least the rest of the Sorkin stuff at some point. It's on my list because I do absolutely get it.
Yeah. Number 27, something very different from The West Wing, and that is Futurama. Which
also very good though.
I've seen a few seasons a long time ago, and I actually just noticed it's all on Prime, so I might actually.
I think they just added it back on last week.
Yeah, I think I might start plowing through that soon. I've liked what I've seen. Tara made me watch an episode from later on in it where all the Star Trek cast were on it. I mean, obviously,
is that where they're all the heads?
Yeah, they're all the heads. Yeah.
And
it's very good, very good. It's funny because Simpsons, obviously, I like Simpsons growing up, but Simpsons went downhill, and I've just kind of stayed away from it. But Futurama is a lot more. It's not quite. It does feel in a way a predecessor to Rick and Morty in a lot of ways. I think.
I can see what you're getting with that, and I think, unlike The Simpsons, it didn't run long enough to overstay. Yeah. It's welcome. It never ran out of steam.
So, it's got a lot of that pop culture, a lot of that, just that witty kind of, we're going to reference, things, we're going to reference sci-fi movies, we're going to reference whatever, we're going to do these different things, and on top of that, be quite witty. So, yeah, from what I've seen, I've liked it. It was a while ago when I watched maybe 3 seasons of it or something like that, whenever that was.
No, I think it is. It's up there. I don't think it's my favorite animated comedy, but it's maybe my second or third favorite animated comedy. It's up there. It's pretty great.
Yeah. So no, I dig it. So that's Futurama at number 27, which leads us to the final entry. For this part, for half one.
Go on, then.
So number 26, and it's funny that I happened to just casually bring up Tara in that last entry because. She definitely had a part in this. Number 26 is Mystery Science Theater 3000.
This is such a bizarre entry.
Yes, but obviously, I mean, she didn't get this number on her own. There's enough people put this on here. And I will stick up for this somewhat. I agree it's a weird entry because it's kind of as a TV show, it's odd. But that said, when people were asking me about entering stuff, and there was some submissions, none of them made the list, obviously, but there was some people saying, hey, do cooking shows count? Do chat shows count? And I'm like, technically, yeah, they're TV shows, sure.
Yeah, this is almost closer to reality TV than everything else on this list up to this point.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is, it's the simple premise of, I mean, there's a fictional reason where they're on a spaceship and they're being forced. It's this one guy and these 2 robots who are watching they've been forced to watch bad movies as an experiment. But ultimately, what it really is just a scripted comedy commentary track running over a bad film, and there's silhouettes of the guy and the robots in the bottom of the screen, but they're just making fun of the bad movies and they're cracking jokes. And I've watched I've probably watched a few dozen episodes of this. It's kind of and obviously Netflix brought it back with some new people a couple of years ago. It's one of those things. It's a bit of an acquired taste. I don't think everyone will get this and be into it. I think if you do get into it, though, if you like the idea of riffing along with bad movies and the jokes, there's good episodes of bad episodes. Some of the movies, no matter how funny they may try to be, the movies are just so dull on their own that it's just impossible to rescue it. But the good episodes are really good. And even the good episodes, they'll have the jokes are up and down. There'll be jokes that just don't land because they're constantly cracking jokes. So not all of them are going to be hitters. but just every once in a while they'll hit out with that one that really pops you because it really works. One of the episodes called Werewolf, which is this bad werewolf movie. There's a scene where there's the werewolf is literally driving a car, and one of them just yells out "an American werewolf in traffic," and it's those things that just snipe, and you're just like, oh my god, that was funny, and it's really good. So I mean, I get it. I don't know if I've seen enough of it to rank it particularly high myself, but I have watched enough of it now that I can.
This is one of those things where it's not for me, but it's one of those where I don't think it's bad. I just know it's not for me, and that's fine. Not everything has to be. People have their tastes. I am surprised to see it on this list, though, not just because of what it is, but just that enough people like it enough.
Oh, sure.
From our audience that got onto this list, that surprises me genuinely.
I don't think it does. I think the sort of audience who enjoys two idiots on the internet talking about movies and TV probably are the target audience that might very much enjoy Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That. I'm surprised enough of them remembered to consider it as, okay, this is a TV show that counts for this list.
I think especially
more than they like it.
Especially the audience who watch Streams After Midnight in the Atomic Cinema Experiment, because it's because when me and Tim hit a bad movie on that show and we're just making fun of it,
they tend to be the favorite episodes. I've noticed. I
totally get why the audience who really like those episodes of us doing that are also people who like watching Mystery Science Theater.
I mean, it says a lot. Maybe this is partially down to my taste, but when I'm watching content on YouTube or other podcasts, I don't watch anything that's like our stuff. Like not because obviously I enjoy talking about it and having this conversation, and I understand the appeal. Obviously, everyone watching this is part of that audience. But also, maybe it's because I spend time doing it, I'm like, okay, I want to spend my time in consuming something else entirely.
Is this why you're so bad at it? All of a sudden, this makes sense.
Yeah, very good. I mean, no, I did watch stuff like this before I started doing it. And,
okay.
But like, it's since that's pretty much every night we do this. I'm like, okay, I've got free time doing something else. This is not what I spend my time listening to or watching. I go to completely the other direction and stuff like that, which is probably why something like Mystery Science Theater doesn't appeal to me, because it's like, okay, it's too similar to our style of content in that sense. It's talking about entertainment, where I'm like, okay, that's not what I would need to consume. I need something else entirely. So it's probably more me than what it is as to why I don't get along with it.
Yeah, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is number 26, which wraps up half one of this top 50 results countdown that you guys voted for in the best TV shows of all time. Which I don't even know if I said this at the start, but this was to celebrate hitting 10,000 subscribers. That's why we did this. I don't know if
you definitely didn't.
Yeah,
and I want to say, I'm very concerned.
What?
Because that show that I referenced earlier on, that me and you both do not like, that a lot of people do, that I'm very much expecting to show up, hasn't shown up yet. And I'm concerned because I thought, okay, it'll be in the 30s, and I can be angry. But
both of us don't like you said. I thought one of us liked it. No, I thought we were going to disagree on it.
No. We are going to disagree with the vast majority of people.
I see. I thought it was one of us were going to be written and one was against. I actually think I know what you're talking about now. Like, yes. I understand what you said.
Yeah. And I'm concerned it's this high. Because I thought, okay, I'll be angry when it's in the 30s, and I'll have my fun. But now it's like, is this in the teens? Is this higher? I'm getting worried.
Mm-hmm.
You're checking where it is.
I am. So, but anyway, that is part one. By all means, let us know what you thought of the picks and the comments and all that stuff. If you're mad at placements, then blame yourselves, blame your neighbour because they're the ones who voted.
Yell at each other in the comments section.
Yes. So that has been part one. We'll be back with part two in about a week. So thank you very much. And this, I am planning on premiering this on YouTube, so it'll sort of air like a live thing, and people can chat as they're watching with the results.
Very fancy.
And that'll be with part two as well. So if you missed this, the live showing of this, if you will, then part two is going to do the same thing.
So you could have been yelling at each other live.
Live, yes. So part two should, I imagine, will be the same time next week. So,
and I know a lot of you post your lists in the comments. If you do that, only post this half in this video. Otherwise, save the full list for next time. Don't ruin it.
I would say save the full list for next time. I would say don't reveal your list until the whole shebang is done. Because they'll have stuff in that bottom half of their list that's still not appeared yet. And you don't want to gauge things. So,
it's true, yeah. Save it.
Yeah, keep it all to yourselves until the fat lady has sung, as it were.
Just gotta wait one more week.
And that's, I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's no way to talk about Connor's mother. All right, so let's move on to. I don't know. It was an easy joke.
Can't believe we resorted to this.
This has been your first half of your top 50 TV shows of all time, is voted for by you guys. You can, of course, support everything we do over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month. So go over there if you want to help. You can keep all the content coming, but you can support us for free by hitting the like button and subscribing. And subscribing is what got us to 10,000, which is why we did this in the first place. So hopefully we can keep growing. So thank you kindly. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. And that is us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?